Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this morning's episode of Trending, brought to you in association with Iconic Coffee. Head over to shop.iconic.com and use the code TRENDING and you get 10% off. I'm joined from Norfolk by Richard Willett. How are you, mate?
I'm all right, thank you. Norfolk's still part of the planet, but thank you for pinpointing where I am.
I think people need to know. I think it sort of sets the scene, doesn't it?
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
How
it
are we
does.
starting then? We're starting with Sir Keir Starmer. This should be uplifting.
Well, we've cleared up some, last few years been a bit confusing. Chaos, some would say. Maybe we can get some order out of this, but order is coming because Sir Keir Starmer says Supreme Court ruling gives clarity that a woman is an adult female. So he can answer it now because the Supreme Court's told him that what he knew before was actually correct. 2 + 2 is 4 now. It was 5 for a little while, Gaz, but apparently we've got to wait for the Supreme Court to tell us that it's no longer 5 and it's gone back to 4. So that's a relief, isn't it?
I mean, it's good to know. That whole thing with Labour and Starmer in particular always made me laugh. It was like he couldn't answer what a woman is. And everyone was saying, Starmer doesn't know what a woman is. Yeah, he does. He's married to one. He's just too much of a coward to be able to admit what he's known since he was in nursery school until the Supreme Court has ruled and said, oh, by the way, Keir, yeah, you're allowed to say that now. Okay. It's just more evidence that everything's bonkers, isn't it?
It's absolutely insane. It really, really is. And it also more how controlled these people are. I mean, if he can't even say a woman is a woman without the Supreme Court backing him up, then where are we? That's supposed to be our Prime Minister. So Keir Starmer has Supreme Court's ruling on the legal definition of a woman, like we were all just waiting there with bated breath. Commentating publicly for the first time on last Wednesday's decision, the Prime Minister said the judgment provided clarity that a woman is an adult female. This is planet Earth. Of all 5 judges at the UK's highest court, unanimously ruled the legal definition of a woman under the Equality Act 2010 should be based on biological sex. These people are getting paid good money to decide these things. You know,
Yeah.
what is going on?
I could have decided that. In fact, my 3-year-old could have decided that for free.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? It's the joke of it, but also that, like, as soon as the ruling came in, the amount of people that were coming out of virtue signalling lot about how this was a horrendous decision. It's like, what? What do you mean?
What? It's not a decision. It's biological
It's
fact.
And that's fine, isn't it? And so then I saw a video of a load of I don't know what the collective term is for some of these people, but they all had blue hair, and they were all various shapes and sizes, and the one thing they had in common was testicles, and they were in a female toilet, basically saying, I'm going to be here anyway. I'm welcome here anyway. You're not selling it to me. You're not selling it to me, because actually a lot of the fear surrounding this from biological women is the fact that actually we're going to have men that are a little bit in our toilets and in our daughters' toilets and changing rooms and whatever. And then to counteract that bigotry, you basically just get a gaggle, I think it's a good term, a gaggle of blue-haired lunatics stood in a female toilet saying we're going to be in here anyway. You're sort of proving their point a little bit.
Oh, and I've got no stand-up toilets either. So like, you're taking up all the facilities, which is my main concern. It's, I mean, what did you say? If we deeper this, and we go into the transgender agenda and go into that this is all absurd as it sounds. If you can get any more absurd than this, that this is all about these no gender, transgender, godlike beings they want to model literally themselves after. So their gods were no gender. They had a male and female aspect, androgynous, and they split into 2, like Adam and Eve. The whole about that is androgynous, and that's where they want to go back to, these androgynous beings. So, they're getting used. They don't understand how they're getting used in this long-term thing. I mean, I read an article yesterday, and in the video I'm putting out this week, the highest paid CEO, female CEO in the world, used to be a man. I mean, that just tells you everything, doesn't it?
Patriarchy, mate, innit? But
yeah,
you're right. It goes much bigger than this. Like, we can sort of half laugh a little bit with Zippy Starmer and all this kind of nonsense, and it is sort of funny in a sort of tragic way that we've dropped that so far as a civilization that we need a Supreme Court to rule on what we already know. But at the same time, it is a transhumanist agenda long term. It's also a depopulation agenda. The more kids you can get confused, the more kids you can get on puberty blockers, the more kids you can get cutting their genitalia off. Do you know what I mean? They're not having kids then, are they? And so there is another aspect to it. It's that aspect of it is not funny. Clearly, obviously, it's a very serious thing, and it's a conversation people need to have. But like you say, the fact that he needs a Supreme Court ruling to say what he already knows just shows what a fraud and a coward he is, and what a fraud and a coward the lot of them are in terms of politicians.
Yeah.
Right, so next story, everything kind of rolls into everything else. This comes from iconic.com. This is a piece that's penned by Lionel Eddy. Nice guy. Hi, Lionel, if you're watching. Rwanda launches $100 million procurement for National Biometric Authentication System. Say that 10 times quickly. Rwanda has initiated a significant tender aimed at developing a multi-model and modular biometrics authentication system, which is a key step in enhancing the nation's digital identity and e-governance strategy. The procurement is a component of the Rwanda Digital Acceleration Project, or RDAP, which is a $200 million initiative jointly financed by the World Bank and, wait for it, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. That'll be out of Beijing, China. That's a coincidence. The implement of the system aims to improve the biometric infrastructure of the, here we go, Amikyo e-procurement platform. I've said that wrong, obviously, while also contributing to Rwanda's long-term digital transformation objectives. Lots of words. Sounds like management talk, David. I know you hate that. What I find funny with stories like this is just how all the nations around the world, all those different world leaders, all those different political parties, left-leaning, right-leaning, centralist, all those with large economies, small economies, they all had the same idea at the same time. It's amazing, isn't it? It is uncanny. It's more evidence that it's everywhere. And the reason it's everywhere is because it has to be everywhere. Digital ID, part of this whole infrastructure of the social credit system and all this stuff. Elon Musk plays his part in it, even though he's a hero to everyone with his low orbit satellites and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't work if you've got, say, 3 or 4 nations or even 24 nations in the world that have it and others don't. The whole point is for the whole planet to be, part of the cloud, essentially, and all of it have this infrastructure. And like I alluded to when I was reading the actual article, it's no coincidence that it's being part funded by the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which, again, comes out of Beijing, China, which is where this whole thing is coming from. This whole social credit system, digital ID, biometric ID, all this stuff is already in place there. So China, as me and Jay were talking about yesterday on training, it's a kind of closed society. So they were able to develop all this kind of without the world watching. Whereas, if you were doing it in Britain or you were doing it in America, where you've got so many tourists, well, America used to have so many tourists, coming to New York City or coming to London to, see the Queen or whatever, that would then leak out to the rest of the world. Because you'd have millions of people a year going, oh, mate, I went on holiday to New York, I went on holiday to LA, I went on holiday to London, to Paris, and this was going on. Oh, mate, really? Wow, that's Orwellian. Whereas it doesn't have the same thing in China because it's quite a closed community. So they've got this sort of whole thing building, and now it's ready. Bosh, right, let's export that to the rest of the world. And obviously this little wet market thing that apparently happened. Sorry, lab leak. Struggle to keep up. Obviously played its role in being able to roll that out across the planet, or at least plant the seed for it, Rich?
Yeah, well, what a lot of people don't know and understand is that different variants of this system, obviously China being quite a large place, were trialled in each, I would say district is probably the best term I can find at the moment. So different variations were used and dropped and trialled. So there are certain places where it actually isn't too bad, but there's certain places where it's absolutely horrific. And we know there's hundreds of thousands of people locked out of traveling there. So they almost had within itself a closed system within a system. They were trialing different variants of this to find the best one that would work, obviously in the Western world. And now we have all of this realignment of the technology. I mean, 200 million for Rwanda, I'd be a bit annoyed because, quite frankly, do you not remember from the 1980s? I'm pretty sure Rwanda people were starving in Rwanda, not looking for digital IDs. So what happened there? I mean, they've gone from starving to now having a digital infrastructure there. Absolutely bizarre. And they've only got 200 million. America got 500 billion. So it shows you kind of the difference there. But this is right, as you say, it's rolling out everywhere. You've got the future crimes police thing in Argentina. You've got this whole system coming over here. Tony Blair pushing the digital IDs over here. This is slowly creeping in absolutely everywhere, and it's not going to be long before the infrastructure's there. Once you can't run from the system, you can't go anywhere. Where do you go? You can't disconnect. And we all know this is the internet of bodies, the internet of things, and you will be a thing. And this connects back into our last story, this transgender, no gender human that comes from Brave New World. I even just saw an advert come up here before we started filming this for the new Captain America film, and it's called Brave New World. They're telling you everywhere that this is coming in, and it's not a Brave New World. You just need to be brave to be able to withstand it. These people are telling you, and have been telling you for years. We know the Huxleys were deeply involved with eugenics, which was later renamed transhumanism by one of the Huxleys, and Julian Huxley. And here, Thomas Huxley, their great-granddad, was the head of the X Club. He founded the X Club, which is basically what you're seeing with Elon Musk today. That is the X Club. This transhumanist agenda is deeply part of this whole Kabbalistic agenda, and you attach that back to the Noahide laws. Tucker Carlson loves the Noahide laws. That comes back in with the symbol of the rainbow. What did they use during COVID over here? They got children drawing symbols of the rainbow here. It's somewhere over the rainbow. It's beyond the curve. All of this stuff is transhumanist stuff, which means the deletion of humanity. Anything that's human is going to be deleted. Now, they want to be living forever immortal gods. There's 600,000 of them, but they will have a transhumanist slave race underneath them to do what they need to do until robotics can take over. And that would be our function for a little while. As mad as this sounds, have a look into this stuff because it all connects in. And the digital infrastructure is their ripened fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's what they see it as. The technology is the ripened fruit. This all goes back to this biblical Olam Haba, world to come, new world order, brave new world.
Well, also, it's not just the NHS with the drawing rainbows on the windows and all that sort of stuff during Rona. What is the symbol of the LGBTQ plus, however many bloody letters, community, which are being exploited in order to push through this transhumanist agenda? It's the bloody rainbow. So there you go. Exactly, Rich. Mm-hmm. Right. So massive shock in the next story, Richard.
Yes, Israel have decided to go, yeah, we did do it. But here's our ridiculous excuse. Israeli military admits professional failures. Imagine us having a professional failure to this extent over Gaza paramedic killings. IDF says it dismisses deputy commander for giving inaccurate report on shooting that caused global outcry. These are the same guys that were warned, I think, 3 weeks before Hamas invaded. I do that in rabbit ears, quotation marks, Israel, and did nothing about it. It's almost as if they're allowing these things to happen, isn't it? Israeli military has admitted to several professional failures and a breach of orders in the killing of 15 rescue workers in Gaza last month, and said that it was dismissing a deputy commander responsible. They shot them. They ran up there. We've seen the body cam footage. Their sirens were going. They knew full well who they were firing at. One of the IDF spokespeople come out and said, we've had it before where they're in the back of ambulances and we didn't know. A total nonsense. You're talking about one of the most detailed and technical surveillance systems in the world that can blow up a house that's hundreds of thousands of miles away. Total nonsense. Both things can't be true at the same time. They're either really good or really rubbish. Which one is it? The bodies were uncovered days after the shooting, buried in a sandy mass. So if it's an accident, do you just go, or just get rid of it, or bury them? And the ambulances. They buried, I think it was 15 ambulances or something like that, or 5 ambulances. Takes a lot of covering up an accident to bury 5 ambulances. None of it makes sense. They lie all the time. None of their lies make any logical sense. They just lie. People just get bored and go away. That's their MO, is just lie until you die. Just carry on, never admit it. And the issue we have, and the same as Starmer, going back to the start one, was that he needed the Supreme Court to tell him that what he knew to be true was true. We're waiting for these lunatics to admit what they're. It's absurd to me. Of course, you're not going to ask the criminal to just admit it, then put him in jail. That's not how this works. So why are we waiting for these guys to come out and say whatever? Because nobody say it's going to be a lie. It's absurd to me that we're waiting on bated breath for anything they say. It's all going to be lies.
Well, for me, Rich, as someone that's been following the Israel-Palestine conflict, for want of a better term, because it's not really a conflict, for a very, very long time, this is the modus operandi. This is what happens. So there's a lot of people probably out there, probably even watching this, that seem to think this whole thing started on October 7th, and they've started their journey into looking into this then. Now, Israel has been killing paramedics, journalists, doctors, American citizens, whoever, with impunity for decades. Now, what happens is exactly how this has happened. So a massacre is carried out, or a bombing is carried out, or an execution is carried out, something horrific that then the world kind of cries out about and says, now at that point, what Israel does is they lie and deny, and then they lie and deny, and then they lie and deny. They pretend they're the victim at that point. They claim that the only reason they're being accused of this is because there's this underlying hatred for the Jewish state around the world, anti-Semitism. That's why you're saying we're guilty of these things. Then they get everyone that's on the payroll or a sycophant for Israel, whether it be a politician, normally American, or an influencer, again, normally American, to come out and do exactly the same. So that then kicks the can down the road until a point where it's irrefutable. So much evidence, whether it be like body cam footage from these paramedics or whatever, comes out where, can't deny it anymore. Okay, yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. But it was a professional failure. We will investigate. We'll investigate yourself. Yeah, we'll investigate ourselves. Oh, okay. So you're marking your own homework now, are you? Yeah. Okay, fine. That's fine. And then that'll kick the can down the road a little bit. It'll placate people a little bit, enough for the uproar to sort of drop off because something else has happened either there or around the world to sort of take attention away. And we'll just, and it's gone. It's like a magician's trick. It just disappeared. Well, so you didn't hold anyone accountable? Nope. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. That's what will happen here because it's what happens every single time. They do what they like. And it is not just me and it's not just you, Rich. More and more people are done with it, mate.
Yeah, I think that's the term, isn't it? Done with it. It's like, we'll go from here because we're done with it. We're done with cry wolfing every 5 seconds and then doing something to distract us over there. When we come back, you're still playing cry wolf. You are using the Christians as the scapegoat. You're using the West as a scapegoat. This has to stop. Where does it stop? As soon as people start to wake up, and that's what's so frustrating and disappointing for the mega lot over in the England and make England great again, is that they are supporting this because they don't want to admit that they were wrong. And that's the kind of protection racket that they have. They've got their enemies to protect them, and they don't even realize that they're signing their own death warrant, and they're too arrogant and ignorant to accept the fact that that's what's happened. You have been used as a scapegoat. Donald Trump even wore a red tie, and his son put a picture of a goat's head on him whilst he was wearing the red tie on Instagram to show you that you're being used as a scapegoat to be led off a cliff for them, for the sins of Israel. You have no excuse not now. We've been over this for years. So, and before, it's really that last protection, which is the victim protecting its own captor. It's like Munchausen syndrome, really.
The narrative is being lost to such a point now that I've not seen it lost to this point in my life. I went to Israel in 2006 to play beach soccer. That was my awakening to Israel because I saw stuff with my own eyes that didn't align with what I was being told on the telly box. So, pushing 20 years of this, I've never seen the narrative fall to this level. Now, what happens when they lose the narrative? Because they've lost it before. They lost it in 2015. They lost it in 2009 with with Operation Cast Lead and all that kind of Protective Edge and all these other operations where they massacred people. But these are like massacres of 2,000 people, 500 kids, which is obviously beyond words horrific, but not in the same freaking league as what we've been witnessing since 2023. And each time they sort of started to lose the narrative, America would jump to their aid, obviously. Now, what they brought in several states in America around that time was they made it illegal to boycott Israel, which is, America's land of the free, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Including the ability to receive hurricane relief. So if you lost your house in a hurricane, well, we need hurricane relief. Well, do you boycott Israel? Yeah, I don't like countries that kill kids. All right, well, you can't have it then. It's insane. So this is from this week, because obviously Trump is owned down to his toenails by Israel, of course. This is from Glenn Greenwald, who is Jewish, by the way, before people start crying anti-Semitism. Under new guidelines released by the National Institute of Health, any medical researchers will have all funds terminated if they support a boycott of Israel. They can support a boycott of any other country or even other US states. They just can't boycott Israel. Now, when I saw Glenn Greenwald post this story, I saw a few comments underneath it saying, well, no, all this is, it's an executive order. Oh, okay, so it's had no scrutiny then. All this is it's a way of basically stopping people from discriminating against other people. Not other people, mate.
What?
Not other people. It's another nation, one single nation. Any other nation's fine. You can boycott China for what's gone in Myanmar. You can do whatever you like. You just can't boycott Israel. And it says that in the wording. So discriminatory prohibited boycott means refusing to deal, cutting commercial relations, or otherwise limiting commercial relations specifically with Israeli companies or with companies doing business in or with Israel or authorized by, licensed by, or organized under the laws of Israel to do business. So it's nothing to do with stopping any kind of discrimination. It's about stopping people from going, right, well, I'm going to boycott Israel then, right? And this is what's so frustrating about it, is people will protest, and some protests get violent, which I don't agree with. And they go, look, savages. They'll kick off, they'll get angry, they'll do X, Y, and Z, they'll throw a brick, they'll do all this kind of stuff. Why can't people protest peacefully? Why can't the Palestinians act in a peaceful manner? Well, they tried through the BDS movement, through boycott, divestment, and sanctions. So it's a case of actually we're not going to rise up against Israel, we're just going to refuse to fund it. And if we refuse to fund it, it loses that amount of money, it loses that amount of support. And actually, at some point, touch wood, they might have to rethink murdering children for a laugh. So then what do? Well, you make boycotting illegal. So what were people expected to do then? And then you wonder why people rise up in an aggressive manner, because you give them no choice.
Mm.
That's intentional as well. Do you know what I mean? But
of course it is, and the absurdity, the mental gymnastics to comment that doesn't mean Israel, whilst it actually says Israel is a mental disorder. You reading it, interpret it, putting it through your system, and go, well, I still like Trump, so how can I make this not seem as bad as it actually is? And coming out with waffle, that's a cult. You're just reframing everything. That's an issue. It's a mental issue. It's called reframing. It's taking what you know to be true and changing the context of it without any outside interference in your own mind to mean something completely different. Now, we all do it to a certain degree, but that's clearly stated in the language. It's Israel. It's boycotting Israel, which should happen. It's the only way, but at the moment, to cut their funding when they've obviously taken over the US politics and deeply embedded themselves in there. It goes throughout all the writing. I've just read a book by a guy who says he was an MI5 agent. This is a good book, but all they do in the whole thing is talk about all of their operations against Islamic terrorists. Not a mention of Israel in London. Like, it's quite clear that Israel have a huge hold on Western world, and it needs to stop. And it will stop, but it'll stop when these lunatics, like these guys, stop basically defending their abuser. That's what they need to do. And what they don't realize is that they're coming for them, because they don't understand the entire context of it. You have to have a religious understanding of the religious context of it, the occult understanding, the political understanding, and you have to have all these different layers, these business understanding, corporate understandings, to where this is actually leading. Why do they want to take over that part of the world down there in the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and go and build a new Solomon's Temple? Why is it so important that they do that, that they kill all these children and maim all these kids and women and men? Why do they want to clear that space? Ask you that question. And if you're saying it's about oil, that's utterly ludicrous. That's just a side benefit of it, because they're switching everything over to electric anyway. So it doesn't really make sense if you're to be believed. That's what happens when they tell lies. They don't work together. Obviously, we know that oil's going to still need to be used to build this technology anyway. So none of it makes any logical sense when you really break it down. But what's really sad is that the people of Israel, the people that are demanding that their government stop doing what they're doing, are slated to be destroyed as well. And that is absolutely horrific. Not only are they hiding behind the rest of the world, dragging the Western world in there, they're hiding behind their own people. And there's only a small percentage of these guys, unfortunately, that are slated to survive this thing. If you look into the biblical narrative, which they are following, and it is a narrative. It's not a prophecy. It's a plan. It's a playbook. So have a look into that, because without that knowledge, you can say the military operation is Zionist. It doesn't make any sense if you don't understand why they want to do what they do. And it comes down to the psychology and their ideological beliefs of who they think they are, these guys. And they think that they are the descendants of Adam and Eve, and they're returning back to their promised land. It's as simple as that. It's nonsense. That's why this is happening. It needs to stop.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And do you know what? They use the Jewish people as a shield. And another thing as well, and Glenn Greenwald will be an example of that for the amount of flack he's getting for pointing this out, is they attack Jewish people that speak out more violently than they do anyone else. Like you look at the Orthodox Jews that refuse to serve in the IDF, they get smashed up with water cannons by the Israeli police. Just yesterday, you've got a board of deputies of British Jews in the United Kingdom. I think there's about 300 of them. That apparently they speak for every Jewish person in Britain, obviously, because that's how these people work. Same as the gay community and the black community. They umbrella everyone so they can make decisions based on their behalf, as if everyone thinks the same. Well, 36 of these deputies dared to sign an open letter, which was published in the Financial Times, denouncing Israel's massacre of children. And so yesterday, the Board of British Deputies came out and apologised for the 36 of them that don't want genocide, and then made a point of that there will be repercussions, including the suspension of these 36 people. Imagine that. Imagine having to come out and make a statement that you're going to suspend 36 people because they don't want kids to be blown to pieces. That says an awful lot about you, Sunshine, a lot more about you than it does about them. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Rich, I shall see you again tomorrow, mate. As always, Trending's brought to you in association with Iconic Coffee. If you head over to shop.iconic.com and use the code Trending, you get 10% off. Of course, any profits from that comes back into the channel so we can try and expand and get more information out there. Rich, I'll see you tomorrow then, brother.
Yep, see you tomorrow, and have a good day, everybody.
That was beautiful.